to the Energy Tech Podcast presented by Upside Energy. Today we're filming live from ENTELEC 2026, and we are excited to welcome Suzette McDaniel, Executive Vice President of Global Business Development with AutoSol's. Guys, welcome to Galveston.
Hey, Jeff, it is good to be here. I'm your co-host, Mike Flores, with the Energy Tech Podcast. Again, right here in lovely Galveston, Texas at ENTELEC 2026. And this is a guest I've been trying to get on ever since we were at ICC in September, Suzette McDaniel. It is good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here.
Yes, it's good to have you. And, you know, Suzette, you have been a staple in the industry for a long time. I want you to kind of talk to our viewers and guests about what you do at AutoSol's and how long you've been in the business.
Thank you. So I started at AutoSol's when I was 21 as a receptionist.
Yeah.
And I have grown up with AutoSol's.
Yeah.
I did office manager, inside sales, marketing, proposals, moved into sales. 2011, I went up to Calgary, opened the Canadian office, AutoSol's Canada.
Yes.
I was there for about 10 years and came back 2020. And probably about 2 years ago, I became the Executive Vice President of Global Business Development. So 32 years.
Wow, 32 years. And, you know, I think one of the things that I appreciate about you, Suzette, just over the years, because I've watched you, you know, and I think one thing I can say that you do is that you articulate really well the relationship with your clients on the AutoSol's side. So I think you do that really well. And, you know, I want you to, right now, from the time you thought that you were 21, you moved into, you know, on the development side, what do you think has changed between then and right now going into 2026?
I feel like it's mainly the technology that has evolved. You know, AutoSol's has always been a very customer-first facing company.
Yeah.
It's software. You know, software is going to have issues. It's how we respond to those issues and support our customers. So I appreciate you saying that because the customer aspect is very important to me as well as AutoSol's. And so supporting them through their transformation from OPC to MQTT to whatever comes to us in the future is where I see things happening.
Wow. And so, you know, I think everybody's always talking about AI. You know, that seems to be like the biggest topic. And I think you and I are both kind of seeing that impact in the industry, right?
Absolutely.
And what has been your relationship with ENTELEC? You know, let's talk about that for a second. What has been your relationship with ENTELEC over the last few years?
ENTELEC was my very first conference for industry.
Yeah.
Probably 26 years ago.
Okay.
New Orleans. You gotta love you're getting broken in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Meeting customers on the French Quarter, walking down Bourbon Street. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great association. I think it brings together the energy telecommunications space. I've seen it evolve as well.
Yes.
From, you know, various companies that used to be here 26 years ago to what it is now and where it's going. You know, as being part of the board and like trying to make sure that it stays relevant and valuable to the customers that come. I think, you know, we're just trying to extend that, you know, making sure that we're staying up with industry as well and the technologies.
Yes. You know, I had Richard Nation on the show, who's a lifetime member of ENTELEC. He was on here this morning, and one of the things he said was interesting to me. He said, you know, Mike, I came here like in 1984, and when I was here, I learned something, and I realized that with just a few $100s, I could save my company money at the time. He was working for, I think it was Tenesco, was the company. And so he's been able to save money. But what he said was, because my membership and that saved me thousands of dollars and learning. Do you think that ENTELEC still carries that learning lineage that he's talking about?
Absolutely, and I think this year's education sessions has been surpassed by all previous years. We really worked hard on the education sessions, and you know there was the range. As a board member, you have to kind of preside over the classes, and so I've gotten to learn some new technologies. And be exposed to things that I was not exposed to before. And so absolutely education.
You know, I was thinking, I also had one of the other guests here, James with Cisco.
Okay.
And so one of the things that came out of that, which I thought was pretty interesting, is you got an innovation center with Intellect.
Yeah.
And him and I were talking, we're thinking, you know, for cybersecurity as part of OTICS, I think it'd be great to have a innovation center where you actually show and actually visibly see cyber attacks and their impact in the space. And I thought about that. And I was like, there's so much learning that happens here at Intellect that everyone else that's here, it's almost like ideas are just coming out of people as a result of the learning that's going on here.
Absolutely. And this year at Innovation Lab, we really tried to take advantage of that next generation. We have Houston Christian University here, and they have their own demo set up. So we're working on that next generation in the control system and showing the technology. But more than that, I think the technology is great, but the community, you know, like I love going to different conferences, but Intellect is almost like coming like to a high school reunion or something. You're seeing all the people that you've known for years and just kind of watching them and getting to know them again and again and again every year.
Yes. And so if you had to look back all the time that you've been involved, what do you think is a good next step for Intellect? I realize that you've got the spring, you've got the session in the fall, which is in October, and kind of looking ahead, what do you see as really good growth trajectory for Intellect?
We're trying to diversify and get in other industries. We tried this year to get some refineries. I saw some. I was sitting in a session and I saw somebody's badge and it said Lyondell, and I was like, hey, y'all are in our building.
Yes.
And so getting some exposure, because they're using the same technology, maybe not in exactly the same way, but they're using similar technology. And then just kind of continuing looking forward.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Because you're obviously it is, we'll say oil and gas, energy. Suzette, you're seeing a big convergence of energy in the space, meaning now you've got data center, you've got these what we call large battery storage and edge data centers that are really just popping off all over the place. Do you see a future where Intellect, as well as embracing those energy, 5G, radio, do you see a convergence there with data center too?
Absolutely. Yes.
Wow.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'm seeing the same thing here. It's like, wow, such a convergence that's happening. One of the unique things too, and you said this earlier, you used the word diversification. I want to go a step further because you spoke at the women's breakfast today. And I want to ask you a couple of questions. The first one is, what have you seen as far as a trajectory for women in the industry right now? I want to ask that first, right? What is some of the things that you're seeing as a positive trajectory for women in this space?
Definitely even more just women in attendance, period.
Yeah.
And also being the instructor in some of these classes, I don't want to get too much into it, but it used to be where, there's only a handful of women in attendance and they were not doing the instruction. So now you have ladies getting up and doing the instruction and being what is maybe the technology leader or an SME in educating people as to what people are doing.
Yes. So what I'm hearing you say is that women are now taking the helm in terms of educating, pushing out new technologies, and really being the leader in the conversation here at Intellect.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
So that's what I'm hearing. And so let me ask you this as well, because you spoke at the women's breakfast. I couldn't catch it. It wasn't for me. But, everyone always presents, and I've done plenty of presentations, and I always walk away from them going, man, I wish I could have said this, or I wish I could have said that. Tell me about something that you wish you could have said when you were in there that maybe you can talk about right now on the Energy Tech Podcast.
I don't know if I have something that I wish I could have said, but the reason why we did that is I did go to another conference in the fall where they did the women's conference, and there is this sense of community and this energy involved, and so I'd met women that I would not have normally, just kind of in the conference itself. And so I tried to make sure that, we had this sense of community, this sense of connection. And, ENTELEC stands for Energy and Telecommunications.
Yes.
And so I was calling the breakfast Women Who Connect. And so I told them that, we need to keep the energy going. We need to keep the connection. And I was asked by there was about 15 women that had attended. They wanted like a Facebook group or a LinkedIn group so that they can stay connected.
Yeah.
And so I really liked that.
Yes. So, in other words, what I'm hearing is, hey, there was a sense of connection, and it sounds like part of that to stay connected is maybe creating a space where there's a digital connection until you come together again, and then probably even offering some levels of training and guidance and even more help, right?
Right. One of the speakers said, don't get nervous about being uncomfortable. And I think sometimes as women, that speaking for myself.
Right.
I don't like to be uncomfortable.
Right.
I will be.
Right.
But it was a nice reminder to, put yourself out here, which is why I'm doing this.
Yes.
But it was a nice reminder to get yourself out there and maybe explore something new. And so I think sometimes women need to encourage others to get themselves out there.
Well, not just only that. I don't think it's not just also about maybe doing something you hadn't done before, but it's also just being in the industry, right? And you want to get comfortable with, like you said, being a leader in your own right. And as coming from the man's perspective, we're all about it. The more we can pass, I think it's always looked at as, we had Lisa Clark on the show as well.
Yeah.
And having Lisa Clark here was a very good reminder and an example that it is possible that women can take the lead in the helm and in the cutting edge, including things like the unified namespace, MQTT, the leveraging of a broker, the leveraging of technology. So I think from my perspective, it was just, wow, I'm so glad to see that you're here in the space. And not only are you talking about it, but you are excited about it. We also had Lindy on the show. She spoke earlier.
Okay.
And she's the CEO of her company,
Yes.
right? And she was here. And let me tell you, we spent that conversation, and where normally we might have a different technical perspective, having her on the show brought about a connection of people that we otherwise would have missed. And not because I'm a guy, but just because it was missed. Her perspective was needed in that time. And it was interesting to hear a woman's perspective. In other words, she was an investment banker and has moved into the technology space. And I believe that the only way she could make that transition was because she is connected. There was a connection that she could push that I probably couldn't do. And that was really powerful. That is one of the things I got to see.
She's pretty great. I had a chance to get to know her about a couple of months ago, and
Yes.
a chance to kind of learn what she's doing there. And she's pretty fantastic. I think also, that women are very much relationship driven.
Yes.
I know for a fact that I am myself.
Yes.
And then also, I think one of the things that one of the speakers said today was, don't be afraid to put yourself in the spotlight.
Yes.
And I, in my role, I kind of straddle the line between marketing as well as business development. And in the marketing, there's a lot of things that kind of happen and that you don't see it right away. And I'm okay with that because, whether it's ENTELEC, whether it's AutoSol's, like something's happening and we're being successful, but I don't necessarily need the spotlight. So
Right.
I think, seeing these women that are successful kind of inspires me to say, hey, look what I did there.
Yes, you did. And so, I think that was a really good message, and I'm really glad that you're involved. And, let me ask you this, what is your take and what are you taking away this year at ENTELEC that maybe you had not taken away from in other years?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me think. Well, we did do the reveal for the MQTT broker.
Yes.
We're looking at beta testers, early adopters. We're getting a lot of kind of feedback about what that looks like.
Yes.
That what more we need to do for that. That's one of the things. The innovation lab,
Yes.
like talking to the students, that was pretty great. I don't know if there's just one thing that I'm taking away.
Yeah. So it sounds like a lot of things. And so if you're here at ENTELEC 2026, you can catch Suzette. She's part of the AutoSol's group there at the booth,
Yes.
and she's an active member, so you're going to find her everywhere. You can see that. And so with that, I just want to say thank you, Suzette, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. And it was great to finally get you here and to be on the show. And with that, I am your co-host, Mike Flores, with the Energy Tech Podcast, right here at ENTELEC 2026 in Galveston. And again, Suzette McDaniel, it was great to have you here.
Thank you very much.
so much. That was good.
Good.